we move right along to the heavyweight semifinal. This is where it gets very interesting. Vinicius Quieroz, 6-2, taking on Alexander Volkov, 17-3. This is the heavyweight semifinal. The winner will fight Richard Hale for the Bellator heavyweight championship. They'll crown a new champion with the winner fighting Richard Hale. Let's take a look at 6-2 Vinicius Quieroz. He's coming off an armbar submission win over 12-4 Mark Holata on October 5th in his quarterfinal bout at Bellator 75. While Volkov is coming off a very impressive decision victory where he picked Brett Rogers apart. That was also on October 5th in his quarterfinal. Quieroz, 5 of 6 wins via knockout with 1 submission. Volkov, 13 of 17 wins via knockout with 3 decisions and 1 submission. So both of these guys, knockout artists. Volkov has lost 3 times in his career, twice via submission and 1 via decision, while Quieroz has lost twice in his career, 1 via submission and 1 via decision. So both of these guys, knockout artists, they've been submitted, they've lost via decision, but they've never been knocked out. So they'll knock you out, and they've never been knocked out. Quieroz made his MMA debut in 2003. He's 29 years old. Volkov made his MMA debut in 2009, and he's just 24 years old. Quieroz is 1-0 in Bellator, as is Volkov. Quieroz from Curitiba, Brazil. Volkov from Moscow, Russia. Both of these guys stand 6'7". 2 monster heavyweights going at it on Friday night at Bellator 80. Volkov is riding an 8-fight win streak, and I believe his win streak will continue. I was very impressed with what he did to Brett Rogers, and I think that, hey, it was impressive what Quieroz did to Mark Holata, but I think it was more impressive to see how Volkov was able to pick apart Brett Rogers, who most people thought was going to win this whole tournament. Now, granted, Rogers did come into the fight injured. Nonetheless, I was thoroughly impressed with Alexander Volkov, and I am picking him to beat Vinicius Quieroz and then take on Richard Hale in the finals. We move on to the featherweight semifinal. Wagney Fabiano, 15-3, taking on 13-2 Rad Martinez. The winner taking on Shabulat Shamalayev in the featherweight final of this tournament. Fabiano is coming off a first-round submission win over a 12-4 fighter named Akop Stepanyan. That was on October 12th of this year at Bellator 76 in his quarterfinal bout, while Martinez got a decision victory over 22-3 Nazareno Malagari on October 12th in his quarterfinal matchup. Fabiano, 15 wins, 8 of those via submission, 5 decisions, and 2 knockout victories, while Martinez has 7 of his 13 wins via decision with 6 knockouts. His 2 losses, 1 via submission and 1 via decision, while Fabiano has 3 losses, twice via submission, 1 via decision. So neither of these guys has ever been knocked out. Rad Martinez is currently riding a 4-fight win streak. He's 3-0 in Bellator and has been fighting since 2008, while Fabiano is 1-0 in Bellator. He's 37 years old and has been fighting since 2000. He's actually made his MMA debut here in Montreal at UCC 1 back in the year 2000. He went 4-2 in the WEC from 2008 to 2010, Fabiano actually losing to Benavidez in November 2010, and didn't fight again until appearing for Bellator this past October, where he won. Martinez, just 25 years old, from Utah. He trains at the Pit Elevated with Josh Berkman, Steven Seiler, and a host of others, while Wagney Fabiano is Brazilian and has been training with Team Nova União, which is a very, very good team there, especially if you're a featherweight, where Jose Aldo trains in Brazil. This is a tough fight to call, but I'm going to go with youth here, and I'm going to go with Rad Martinez. I was very impressed with what he did to Nazareno Malagari, and the fact that he was able to nullify the offense of a jiu-jitsu black belt in Nazareno Malagari, I believe he'll be able to do the same thing to Wagney Fabiano. I think Fabiano's very tough, but Martinez is tougher. He's training with a great camp in the Pit Elevated there in Utah, and I think that's one of the camps that is on the rise right now in MMA. I think Josh Berkman showed that this past Saturday night at World Series of Fighting. So I'm going to go with Rad Martinez, whose main training partner is UFC fighter Steven Seiler, who we spoke with last week, and who'll be fighting here at UFC 154. And we move to the main event. We go to Joe Warren taking on Owen Evinger. Warren 7-3, Evinger 7-3. This one at bantamweight. Joe Warren is coming off a knockout loss to Pat Curran to lose the Bellator Featherweight Championship on March 9th of this year at Bellator 60. While Evinger also coming off a submission loss to a 2-3 fighter named Alan Gibson on January 28th of this year in Springfield, Missouri. So Joe Warren losing to 17-4 Pat Curran in his last fight, while Evinger lost to a 2-3 fighter named Alan Gibson. Warren has 7 wins, 5 via decision, 2 via knockout. Evinger 7 wins as well, 4 submissions and 3 decisions. Warren has lost 3 times in his career, twice via knockout. He's actually lost 2 fights in a row, both via knockout. Alexis Villa knocked him out. Joe Warren tried to step down to the bantamweight division and enter the bantamweight tournament while he was still the featherweight champion, and got a rude awakening when he was knocked out by Alexis Villa in September of last year at Bellator 51. So he's been knocked out now twice in a row. He also lost once via submission to Bibiano Fernandez back in October of 2009 in the Dream Featherweight Grand Prix final. So Warren, a former featherweight champion, a Dream finalist, and now trying his hand again at bantamweight. He actually has a catchweight victory over bantamweight tournament winner Marcus Galvao. He beat Galvao in April of last year at Bellator 41. He's got a split decision win over the featherweight tournament winner Patricio Ferrer. He beat him in June of 2010 at Bellator. And he also beat Kid Yamamoto back in Dream in May of 2009. So Joe Warren, yeah, he's on a losing streak, but he's had some pretty impressive victories in the past. And I think that Bellator is trying him out at bantamweight to see what he can do. He made his MMA debut in March of 2008 in that Dream Featherweight Grand Prix, did Joe Warren. He was an NC2A Division I wrestler. He actually could have made the Olympic team for the United States, but tested positive for marijuana. So he was not allowed on the team. He's also fighting out of Denver, Colorado. So that's kind of interesting given the latest developments there in Colorado. Joe Warren tested positive for marijuana, couldn't make the Olympic team, is fighting out of Colorado. Good place for Joe Warren. He's got a 5-2 Bellator record. He's 35 years old, is Joe Warren. His opponent is 29 years old with an 0-2 Bellator record. Evinger is on a 2-fight losing streak and has actually lost 3 of his last 4. Evinger won his first 6, but has now lost 3 of 4, dating back to his Bellator debut in April of 2011. I like Joe Warren in this fight in a major way. I understand Bellator and their position right now. They see Joe Warren, he's a former champion, he's a guy that people enjoy watching, and he's coming off 2 losses. They want to see if he can still fight. He's been knocked out twice in a row. They're testing him out at bantamweight. And I think they're giving him an easy fight here in Owen Evinger, who's lost 3 of his last 4, who's coming off 2 straight losses, and he's losing to guys with losing records. They may have identical records here in Evinger and Warren, but I think this is a huge mismatch. I think Joe Warren wins this fight and wins it convincingly. Although Joe Warren likes to win via decision, he's that grind-out type wrestler style. I could see him going all 3 rounds with Evinger, but I see no way at all that Joe Warren loses this fight. I'm going to go with Joe Warren to beat Owen Evinger this Friday night.